What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Green Bay Rewind. Super excited to be here on a Victory Tuesday. Doesn't get much better than that. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. What a roller coaster of a game. Um, I appreciate y'all being here. I'm excited to talk about it. I got a lot to talk about. So let's just kind of get right in, see who's checking in. Of course, I see some usual faces right off the bat. We got Ron and Appleton. Ron, appreciate you being here again, sir. Good to see you. Corey and Logan checking in from New Ulm. I think I am going to finally update uh, that overlay for the waiting room. I don't think it's at this point I'm seeing the same people a lot, which is great. I love that, but I feel bad that making you guys just always say what city you're in. We got Roger in Grand Rapids. Good to see you, Roger. Derek, appreciate you coming back again, man. Dan in Racine. Heather in Tennessee. Ooh. Jordan. I don't know where you're watching at tonight, Jordan. What bar are you at tonight? Packers gonna admit Ben's gonna finally admit the Packers need some more coaching and player performances. Jordan, are you trying to say I'm a biased individual who doesn't criticize the team? You must not watch every week because I criticize a little bit. I usually stay pretty even keel though. Steve, good to see you again, man. Coming in from Kentucky. Wyowega for my guy Tony. Tony, good to see you as always. We got Al from Naples. Yep, I know where the Tullys are. See, that's the problem with that. Always having to say like, "Hey, where are you watching from?" I just want to know who's here. I want to know who's hanging out. So maybe I'll update that this week if I remember. That way, next week we have a new one. There's a lot to get into, so we can just jump right in. I am super excited. First, we got to talk about. Oh, hold on a second. First, before we do anything, here is the giveaway link. I know Chad almost had to remind me again. I told Chad to always remind me if I forget the giveaway link. Yeah, so there's the links there. If you've been here before, and then you know what to do. But if you haven't, there's a link there. It's like a Google Forms link essentially. Fill that out. Only fill it out once, please. Don't do double submissions or multiple submissions. Fill it out once, and then later on in the show, we're going to do some giveaways. We did a scenario last week, which it hit on, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So we're going to do 2 giveaways today. Casey, good to see you, man. Yeah, so I used to work directly with Casey. I'm still in the same company, but I don't work directly with Casey anymore. And his entire office calls me sweet, sweet little Benny. So there's some little insight for you. Hey, Christopher, good to see you, man. Appreciate you checking in. All right, yeah, let's talk about some of the breaking news here. So first and foremost, Packers announced yesterday that Mark Murphy is going to be inducted into the team's Hall of Fame next year, which is phenomenal. He would be a great addition to the Hall of Fame. He's going to be retiring next year. He has done really so much for this team and this community. I know he's not always on the favorable side for everyone. I mean, who is on the Packers team? Everyone's going to come. There's always going to be people complaining no matter what. I mean, even the legendary Red Batty probably got few people complaining about how he kept uniforms or something. And Red Batty is the man. So there's always going to be someone complaining. But Mark has done so much for not only the Packers, but the community of the area of Green Bay. You know, when he came in January of 2008. He joined the team as it was heading towards one of the, I don't know, one of the most eventful periods in team history, in the fact that they were moving on from their quarterback of 16, 17 years, maybe 15 years, I guess. But yeah, so he came in at a very rocky point of the franchise and really helped navigate that franchise through that. It wasn't all played perfectly, but ultimately in the end, we came out better off. Along with that, I mean, over the years, he's done so many notable things. I mean, a couple that come to mind right off the bat is the legacy he's going to leave in Green Bay. Every president for the Packers has left their legacy, and Mark's definitely no different. When he first came into town, right next to Lambeau Field was an old Kmart that I feel like was just used for parking. It was very run down, very very like eh. I mean, it was a Kmart, I guess, and now in its place is Titletown, which is absolutely stunning. My son absolutely loves Titletown. It's his favorite park in Green Bay. We go there a lot when it's nice out. It's well lit, it's well kept, really friendly. Along with that, I should say, really friendly staff. Along with that, there's just so many free events there throughout the year that it's so incredible. I mean, they do movie nights where you can bring your family. They'll put out huge jumbotrons, and you'll watch some kids movies like Finding Nemo, and you can sit on like Aaron's Hill and just enjoy the evening when it is nice outside. They do sledding, they do ice skating. Obviously, that costs a little bit of money, but they do a lot of free events, and it is such a nice addition to that area. It really complements Lambeau Field so nicely. So Mark has definitely got his thumb on that. He's a big part of that. And then along with that, he's bringing the NFL draft to the Green Bay. It's kind of his going away present, if you will, from the NFL, which I'm very excited about. I hope you guys are coming to Green Bay for it. I'll be down there every single day unless something god awful happens. But I'm going to have a lot of people staying at my house. It's going to be a crazy, crazy time, and I'm excited to get down there. Hopefully, you guys are down there. I'd love to bump into some of you guys. But interestingly enough, the Packers have a mandatory retirement age of 70. So once you hit 70 as an executive, so like as a president and CEO, you have to retire in the organization. So Mark is set to retire on July 13th, 2025, which is his 70th birthday. So from my side, thank you, Mark, for everything. I definitely appreciate everything you've done. I don't know. I hope you have a great retirement. I hope you do whatever you want to do. I don't know. I don't know what his hobbies are outside of football. And then the other news today, the New York Jets have moved on from their general manager Joe Douglas, which Chad texted me a little bit before the show started. I was making dinner and we're giving our son a bath, so we didn't have a super lengthy conversation, but he texted me kind of saying how funny it is that 2 years ago or whenever the Aaron Rodgers trade was, so I guess the offseason of 2022 or heading into 2023, the narrative was that Joe Douglas has all this leverage and is fleecing Gutekunst for Aaron Rodgers. And oh my God, can you believe the Packers got rid of Aaron Rodgers? And can you believe that Joe Douglas is this mastermind and got this deal done? And now here we are, not even 2 years later, and Robert Saleh is not there. Joe Douglas is not there. The Jets are cleaning house. I don't know what they're going to do with Rodgers. I mean, he has a lot of money coming to him in the next couple of years for the Jets, a lot of dead cap. I don't know what their plan is. I know Andy Herman said that we're coming kind of full circle to maybe we see another Packers legendary quarterback wearing purple and gold. Is that what their color scheme is? Because their draft pick McCarthy is coming off an injury that's required multiple surgeries now, and they're not probably going to want to pay Sam Darnold for a long-term contract. So you might need just a quarterback for a year or so, which Rodgers could potentially fill that hole. So we will see. Let's check in some comments, make sure I'm not missing anything. Steve says he's got his cheesehead at that Kmart. See, it is a legendary. It's a legendary place. Let's see. Just trying to see if I missed anything. Yeah, I understand it, Jimbo. I know a lot of people don't care. I still like to keep up on stuff, especially if it's related to the Packers. I'll talk about it. I don't touch on it too much. That's going to be about it. But I definitely get it. Kyle, good to see you from Iowa. Appreciate you checking in, man. Looking forward to hearing about your trip in for Thanksgiving. Ben, Aaron Rodgers is over there cleaning house. Yeah, what an odd. They really went all in, and I don't know, it's coming back to bite them. But anyway, we can move on. Like Jimbo said, I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. I still think it's, anytime there's like kind of a news update somewhat tied to the Packers, I'm going to talk about it on the show. So, but let's talk about the Packers and Bears. What a game. I joked that I was going to lower my 401k contribution percentage after that game because I feel like it shaved off a couple years of my life. And I feel like we're back with the cardiac pack where every week it seems like my blood pressure is just climbing higher and higher. But they hold on. They hold on to defeat the Bears 20-19. The Bears fall to 4-6 on the year, and now the Packers advance to 7-3 after that victory. There's a lot of great stuff from that game. Penalties, we already talked about that. The Packers only had 3 penalties, one of which was a very questionable Caleb Williams flop on the sideline. I know a lot of Bears fans are still crying about penalties, which we'll talk about a little bit. But, I thought the refs allowed both teams to play in a manner. The refs didn't call a few that were pretty blatant on the Bears side of things as well. And, that's how it goes sometimes. I've never been one. I think outside of the Fail Mary, I've never been one that like blames a ref for the loss. And I think the Fail Mary was different because it wasn't the refs just called the completely that was just a completely wrong ruling. And then to even get a video replay of it and have it go to New York and have it stand just like made it even worse. So I'm never one that's going to blame it on the refs, but I know there's some controversy over that final play, but to only have 3 penalties on the game is incredible, especially from what we've seen kind of earlier in the year where we're seeing double-digit penalties in some games. But along with that, not only being a huge improvement, like we talked about, our giveaway scenario for this week was to keep it under, I think, 6 offensive penalties, which we had 3 total penalties. So we're going to do that bonus giveaway, which will be fun. I hope tonight we can get I know I have a mini helmet in there. I have a jersey. I have a jersey in there. I have Packer Pro Shop gift cards. I hope we can kind of mix it up. I know we've been getting a lot of 8x10s, which predominantly a lot of the things in the giveaways are 8x10s. They're a lot easier to ship. So I did a lot of 8x10s. But I never imagined. I mean, we were talking about special teams in the last couple of weeks. I never imagined that we would see the Packers win a game on special teams when it's not the field goal unit winning the game. That still blows my mind that the special teams won a game for the Packers and it wasn't the field goal kicker. What a play by Karl Brooks. I mean, absolutely. He manifested it. He talked about it pre-snap. He was saying to himself, hey, I'm going to do it. And he proved what I've been telling my wife for years, that when all you got is just a tip, it can do the job, Sorry, Logan, close your ears. Close your ears. But per the GOAT, Wes Hodkiewicz over at the Packers, it was the second time the Packers have blocked a field goal on the final play of the game. The other happened nearly 85 years ago during a 7-6 win over the Cleveland Rams on November 26th, 1939. And I do find myself wondering that I wonder if the Rams fans cried that it should have been a penalty on that loss too, like the Bears fans. I'd imagine that the Bears fans are going to keep crying about that. And I understand, I get it. Like if you think that it should have been a penalty, I think there's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of confusion about that penalty. I thought that you just couldn't directly line up over the long snapper. That way they could snap the ball and get their hat up. Now they got pushed into the center while they're trying to get that gap by the offensive line. So maybe that's why the penalty doesn't get called. I'm curious to see what the league is going to say. Jordan, despite his interception, it felt like Jordan was looking a little bit more true to form. He seemed to be able to move around a lot more. We saw him put a lot more zip on a lot of the balls. Now we did see that interception, like I mentioned. We saw him sail it a little high to Tucker in the red zone, which, I mean, that's a back-breaking interception. But it is what it is. It's funny. I see a lot of people online and everyone's like, oh my God, Jordan threw another interception. This guy's blah, 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 blah. And then I watched the Chiefs game and Patrick Mahomes threw an interception the same exact way. And I know Patrick has that pedigree and that resume that comes with being a great quarterback, and it's going to get you a little bit more wiggle room on criticism. And I know he's having a rockier year, but that's going to happen. Packer fans, we've talked about this, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point for those of you that have been watching week in and week out. But I think as Packer fans, we're so used to this quarterback that can just be incredibly accurate constantly that it's going to take a little bit to get used to a quarterback who isn't the one of the most accurate passers in NFL history. And that's okay. You know, Jordan finished the day 13 of 17. He had one touchdown, the one interception like we talked about, and then he had a rushing touchdown. All in all, that's a pretty solid day. One of my favorite theories that's going on around on the internet right now is the fact that Jordan Love's play is directly associated with Toyotathon. I know Chad had heard about this. Him and I were talking about this, and I'm sure some others have seen it. But last season, Jordan obviously had an up and down year. The first kind of part of his year was a little bit rocky. And then when Toyotathon started, Jordan's season took a complete turn. He finished the year 18 touchdowns and 1 interception during Toyotathon. And this year, Toyotathon started on the 15th, and it runs until like early January. So I hope that if we continue to see this trend where he plays exceptionally well during Toyotathon, that maybe the like local Green Bay Toyota dealership needs to kind of extend Toyotathon through the Super Bowl, just so we can kind of see Jordan keep performing during Toyotathon. Maybe we'll start it earlier too, right? Maybe we'll start at week 1. I'm gonna kind of check some comments here before I keep rambling. Let's see. Yep, Kirby, good to see you again, man. I mean, he looked night and day different. You saw him able to escape the pocket when it was kind of collapsing on him. You saw him able to kind of put the ball where he wanted to in most cases. There's a couple throws that he made that were, wow, that's a throw. I mean, that's why you keep him around, and that's why like all the fans are like, we need to bench him. That's why it's pretty ridiculous, some of the throws you've seen him make. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what everyone's saying. Is kind of like Jordan Love's going to be kind of a mix between Favre and Rodgers, which is okay. And Kyle's nailing it. You know, we've been very spoiled with quarterbacks. We have extremely high standards. My entire life, I've watched Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Of course, we've had years where we had Matt Flynn for a little bit, Brett Huntley, and other kind of rotational guys that you're worried like Tolzien and Seneca Wallace. But we've been extremely fortunate. So it's hard to temper your expectations when you've had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and it's going to be, it's going to take time. Favre's first couple of years in Green Bay were pretty horrible, and it took time to kind of cultivate. And I know Jordan's been in the league, and I know he's been in this offense, and like we've talked about, being in an offense and being on a team does not equate to true first string NFL snaps. So even if you've been on it, it's still going to take a little bit to get full rhythm, especially when you're having younger guys. But we can kind of keep talking on it. Another player worth noting, Christian Watson, absolutely stunning game. He had, I guess I didn't write down his stat line, but he had over 100 yards. And I love those days for Watson. We see fans are a little harder on Watson. He's obviously had some ups and downs with injuries that have kept him sidelined, and he has some games where obviously he doesn't show up on the stat line. But there is so much that Watson does that will never show up on the stat line that you need him to do. You need players around you to do. We see he goes into things and he'll take the top off the defense one. That's obvious, right? With his speed, he can really take away other defenders that maybe will be covering other receivers or tight ends and really open it up for other people. But along with that, more importantly, is his attitude and mentality when it comes to blocking. You'll see some receivers who don't really want to block, and I know they probably aren't going to fit in Matt LaFleur's offense, but Watson's not one of them. Watson's happy to get his hands dirty. He's happy to be blocking people constantly. Even if the ball's not coming his way, he just wants to do what's best for the team and what's going to help the team win games. And that attitude, you can't put a price on that attitude. I think, if you can have a team full of guys who are very selfless and really want others to succeed and want everyone as a team to succeed, even if that means you're not getting all the targets, that's huge. And that does so much for a locker room mentality to just be that selfless and be like, hey, as long as we win, I'm cool. If it's one pass for 6 yards and we go out there and win, I'm good. That's what you want. And I'm super stoked for Christian. I'm so happy he had the game he did. And I hope we see that keep continuing because he is a really good threat and a really good weapon in this offense. And you're going to see the ups and downs, right? You're going to see the games where he doesn't have the greatest of games because you're going to have other weapons. Jaden Reed's going to have a big game. Tucker's going to have a big great game. Romeo's going to have a big game. You're going to see other guys that have opportunities that they take advantage of based on the defensive schemes they're seeing. But it's nice to see Christian get it. Josh Jacobs, boy, you talk about one dog in Christian Watson to Josh Jacobs, who's another dog. 134 total yards from scrimmage on Sunday. I love me some Aaron Jones. I'm going to be super happy when Aaron Jones comes back and goes into the Packers Hall of Fame, which he no doubt will. But man, I was concerned about that transition when they went from Jones this offseason and brought in Jacobs. And hey, how's that production going to be? But I feel like Josh Jacobs is just a guy that is going to play and just be. He kind of reminds me of like what I've always heard Jim Taylor style is, right? He's just physical. He's gonna hit you and keep hitting you, and he's just gonna keep at it. We saw that play where he was running out in open field. Jalen Johnson's running at him, and he points at Jalen Johnson and basically says, "Come get it." Only for Jalen Johnson to go over, try to throw his body at him. Josh runs through it and runs out of bounds. So not only making Jalen Johnson kind of look silly in the process by calling him out and then running him over, but that's Packers football. That physicality is what you want to see. And that's something Jim Taylor, I know, would be proud of. Just the fact that you want to hit guys. You don't want to just go out of bounds. That's a different mentality. I certainly wouldn't have that mentality. I'm too soft for that. Before we kind of start talking about some of the negatives here, I'm going to just jump back into the comments. Yeah, Derek, that was another thing too. Jones, and I'm by no means slandering Jones, but he is that liability when it comes to health. He's a different style back, and that's fine. When we originally got Jacobs for that 3-minute period or whatever, when we thought we had Jacobs and Jones, I was like, this is going to be such a perfect combination. You can kind of keep them both fresh. But you've seen Jones now in Minnesota already battling with injuries kind of all year so far. And Jacobs obviously had his ankle injury, but he just feels like a completely different back. And I don't want to talk on it too much because I don't want to jinx it, but it's nice to see the physicality he brings. And he's elusive too. He's not just rumbling through the line. He makes cuts and he goes. So it's really fun to see. Tony talking about Christian's blocking, that downfield blocking is huge for sure. Chad says Jacobs pointing and calling the defender out to come get him his next level. I love that. I saw a Matt Ramage just dropped a shirt. If you guys don't follow Matt Ramage, Matt's my guy, but Matt just dropped a shirt that I wonder if I can find it to share. It's basically Josh Jacobs, and it's him just yelling, "Come get it!" Essentially, I'm gonna find it here. I'm pretty sure. Oh, it says "hit me." Let's see if I can't share this. Yeah, look at that. That's a sweet shirt. I might have to pick that up from Matt, but him just running out of bounds saying "hit me." That's awesome. I just saw he dropped that earlier today, and what a sweet shirt to represent that play. Definitely will have to pick that one up. So a win is a win all day long. Of course, it's a win. We're happy about a win, but in order to keep Jordan happy, you gotta criticize sometimes. There was a lot of things in that game that were just not that were just like so frustrating as a fan to watch. Notably was the pass rush. We saw the Bears obviously brought in a different offensive coordinator. We talked about them making that coaching change before the Packers game. So that's part of it. But the week prior, we saw Caleb get sacked 9 or 10 times by the Patriots. And I was hoping the pass rush was just going to eat Caleb alive. Uh, I know we've had our struggles with pass rush, but this should have been the game to do it. And it felt like we were getting pressure on Caleb, but it felt like it was always over pursuit and left a run lane for Caleb. We saw him run 70 yards, which I believe was his career high now at this point. We saw really one sack up until the final drive where we got two more. Should have had a third with Kingsley Angabar, but it's pretty frustrating. Now the Bears offense did tailor it for their poor offensive line. We saw them doing a lot of quick snaps, a lot of quick passes, a lot of like just get the ball out of the hands. We saw a lot of misdirections. We saw a lot of things that kept the defense honest. So I will give them that, right? That they prepped for having a poor offensive line, but it is just really frustrating. I also was frustrated that it didn't seem like Halfley was really making that adjustment to bring up guys and expect those quick passes. Make Caleb beat you deep. His deep accuracy has been pretty bad this year. And if it's me, I think I would have wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, play up on that line, expect everything to be coming short. And if not, expect if he does have to hold on to it a little bit, expect that your pass rush is going to get pressures, is going to force something. But it's really frustrating to see that we just got dinked and dunked on the entire game and it works so well. And it makes me nervous for the 49ers because CMC is going to be able to just eat against that. And our rush defense has been kind of as of late as well. And that makes me nervous with CMC as well. I know he's probably still not 100%. He's got some issues of his own, but it's a pretty concerning thing though. The money that we have in the pass rush with Kenny Clark and Gary, and we're not seeing the results. Now, shout out to Brenton Cox because he came in with very little opportunities prior to Sunday's game, and he made the most of it. We saw him generate the only sack prior to the last drive. We saw him force some pressures. We saw him make some other good plays, and I'm sure you're going to keep seeing his opportunities grow. You know, you wish you'd be able to see that on LVN. It seems like maybe he's just not developing as quickly as you'd want him to. But that is a huge concern. When the pass rush is ineffective like that, then we're seeing the defensive backs be more ineffective because they need to cover longer. And it just makes everyone's job on the defense harder. Quay Walker, we've talked about him a lot on the show. I've obviously been a pretty big supporter of Quay. I've been pretty vocal that, you know, hey, I think we just got to keep giving him time, which I'm by no means saying, hey, this guy needs to be completely benched, never seeing the field again. But I feel like I took a look at snap counts over the game, and Quay played every single snap. He is the mic on the defense, so he played all 72 snaps. Cooper, who I've been saying all season long, or for the last few weeks anyways, that he should be on the field and never leave. He played 71% of snaps, or 51 snaps. We saw McDuffie play 21 snaps, and then Eric Wilson play 13 snaps. So Quay is just like one of those things. Like, you'll see him make a good play, like the pass deflection, and you'll be able to, like, you know, kind of attack the perimeter and not get washed out with some runs. But man, that fourth down where he was in Caleb's face, and rather than just like attacking and just keep being at it and going after Caleb, you saw him kind of stop and shimmy like he was expecting Caleb to take off, and he was just like kind of dancing in anticipation of it. And that bought Caleb just enough time to be able to find his read for the first down. Had he just kept going, and I know it's easy for me to stay on the couch. I'm not the one here like running a million possibilities through my head as this play's happening. But man, had he just kept going full speed, he would have taken Caleb out. The play would have either been incomplete, like if Caleb tried throwing it, odds are it'd be incomplete, or you'd be a sack turnover on downs. Instead, the Bears ended up getting a field goal out of it. And that's a big swing in the game. I don't know. I don't want to see Quay never see the field, but I do think Edgerrin should be playing every single snap. I've talked about that a lot. We've seen Wilson make the most out of every single snap he plays. I just think that there's other guys that make the most out of the opportunities they've been given. And I understand the draft capital that you've put into Quay, but also at a certain point, you need to be like, hey, these guys are performing better and we need to swap it around. We'll see if that happens. At this point, there's no chance that the Packers pick up Quay's 5th-year option. Just for his performance alone, there's just no chance. And with that, I feel like, with that being the case, if that is the case, if that's how the Packers are feeling, even more reason to see what you have in other linebackers. I don't know. And then the other thing I had here on my notes is I think I have no idea what Matt LaFleur was doing with that 4th down attempt on the 6-yard line in 4th and goal from the 6-yard line. If one of you has a better idea of what he was doing, please share, because I have no idea what the thought process was with that. You could have kicked a field goal. You could have made it a 2-point game, and there's still a lot of time left in the game. Hold the Bears offense to nothing and they punt. Now you only need a field goal to win the game. Or if they go down and score a field goal, then it's kind of the same situation you're in. Maybe they're concerned that the Bears were going to drive down and get a touchdown and make it a 9-point game. Maybe that was their concern. But you're the 29th rated red zone offense going on against the number 1 rated red zone defense. And it was just everything about that play was horrible. So I don't know. All in all, if that's my biggest frustrations, which, Jordan, calm down. Off your high horse. Jordan, you clearly don't watch every week. I know, Jordan, I know you're probably out at Hayward bars or something like that. You're drinking a little too much. You're not paying attention. For those of you that are wondering, Jordan and I go way back. I have a good story that I'm going to be sharing during Vikings week about Jordan and I going to a game together that I'm looking forward to. So Jordan's a character. Got to razz each other a little bit. So, but yeah, all in all, stressful game. It's a fun game. Anytime you get a win, it's a fun game. I have really enjoyed watching all of the reactions of Bears fans watching the final kick get blocked. So that's been really enjoyable. I see some questions here about rolling in, but let's get into some burning hot questions. It'll be a fun little thing to do here. So as always, shout out to Legend Larry's. I appreciate them immensely for sponsoring the show all season long. And all season long, anytime the Badgers or Packers are playing, you can get a dozen wings for only $10 when you dine in, which is a steal of a deal. I need to find some people in Green Bay that want to go to Legend Larry's with me, because my wife really enjoys Legend Larry's, but she doesn't like wings as much as I do. So, and Frankie, who I don't know if is on tonight, he moved away, so he's dead to me. Him and I used to go to Legend Larry's a lot. But anyway, yes, go to Legend Larry. What an odd segment to start with. Go to Legend Larry's. Go check them out, even if it's not a game day. Great wings, great sauces. You can buy their sauces online or in stores around the area. But let's see some questions. Feel free to drop them if you got them. Let's take some time. I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. Just answer any questions you have. I see Kirby's hitting here with, do you think Jaire getting hurt a series in the game caused issues overall for the scheme? That very well could have been a point. My thought is, great question, Kirby. Thank you for that, by the way. My thought is, I'm guessing you're coming into the game with multiple game plans. You probably have one where Jair doesn't go at all because we didn't know he was going to go. They tested him pre-game to see if he was going to be able to go. So my thought is you probably have two different game plans. You have a game plan where Jair goes, and then you have a game plan where Jair doesn't. We weren't sure if Evan was going to go either prior to the game, so I'm sure there's other factors that play into it. But I think you can't really. I would imagine you have to have multiple, and then when Jair ends up leaving the game, I feel like at that point maybe you should switch things up. But you do see that the defense plays a lot differently when Jair is not on the field. It feels like they play a lot more zone as opposed to man, and then you see the Packers kind of get taken advantage of in that zone defense. You see guys sitting in the zone or in the empty spots of the zone and really taking advantage of that. We saw that against Chicago. There's so many times where the receiver's just wide open because he just sat down where the defenders weren't, and they're able to pick apart that zone defense. So yeah, I mean, you hope that he's back sooner rather than later, and hopefully he can stay healthy. I know he keeps tweaking that, so it's a tough thing. I think this is Corey. I think I could be wrong. Maybe. If so, hey, Corey, good to see you. Good to see you, man. Do you think losing Preston Smith was a major factor for our lackluster defense? Corey, great question, man. I think what Preston Smith brought to our defense that we saw really missing this last week was his ability to read those option plays. We saw so many times where Caleb would do the option and he would keep it and go to the outside. Defender would completely bite, and then Caleb would just run free. Preston was next level at reading those. I don't know how he's so good at that, but I do think that was a big part of it. Maybe not so much on like the pass rush side of things. Maybe we won't see the loss there. I guess that sounds silly because you're probably seeing a loss, right? Brenton Cox Jr.'s level of pass rush is not that of Preston Smith. However, that read on the edge, Preston's like next level with those. So I think that's really what you're losing when you're losing Preston Smith, and the Bears took advantage of that. But great question. Appreciate it, man. How likely is it for I would assume a win against the 49ers? I'll tell them blue in the face, man. I'll say thank you for the question first off, Tyler. I'll say any given Sunday all day long. I know the 49ers have been the Packers' kryptonite, especially in the postseason. Packers have kind of, beat them in the regular season, but then always lose to them in the postseason. We beat them in 2018. We beat them in 2021. And then I think we beat them 22. Man, I don't know. I don't know. We've beat them, I think, the last 3 regular season games, or we beat them 3 out of the last 4 regular season games, but then they always beat us in the postseason when it matters. So I feel like they feel a lot like more of a thorn in our side because they always take us out of the playoffs. So maybe because it's a regular season, maybe we can kind of escape it and hopefully get a win. I'd love to see the Packers be able to knock them to 5-6 and put them a little bit deeper in their divisional run. I'd love to see them miss the playoffs this year just because I hate running into them in the playoffs. Great question though. Anyone else? Derek, another great question here. Let me get a drink on this one. Do you think Lloyd will come in and take Wilson's spot when he's healthy? 1 second here. Let me mull over this. So, great question, man. I appreciate that. You're always bringing so many of you guys bring such great questions week in and week out. It's crazy. And while I'm answering these, let's drop this link again. If you have entered the giveaway, don't do it a second time. But if you're just coming in or if you haven't entered it, feel free to enter that in. You have to be here to win. So when I do the drawing, you got to make sure you claim it by the end of the episode in order to win. So there is that form. Fill that out if you have not done so already. So let's get back to that question. Derek says, do you think Lloyd will come in and take Wilson's spot when he's healthy? And I think that's really interesting because start of the season, right? We saw Josh Jacobs and Wilson kind of doing a 1-2. Wilson's looked pretty good in the opportunities he's been given. And then all of a sudden you saw Chris Brooks kind of coming up out of nowhere. And Chris started taking more and more of Wilson's snaps. And now you don't really see Emmanuel play that much. You saw him get maybe 1 or 2 opportunities on Sunday. He might have had more. I might have just missed them, but it sure is trending that way. I know Lloyd has appendicitis right now. He's getting his appendix out, so it's going to be some time yet. But I can't imagine they keep 4 running backs. I would imagine Emmanuel Wilson's going to be the odd man out right now with Chris Brooks kind of taking those snaps that he originally had. So it's a pretty interesting scenario, pretty interesting question. Okay, yeah. Corey says losing that veteran leadership with Preston, I felt too. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that, and now is a great time for Gary to really break out as leader. Great addition, Corey. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, about like the lack of leadership and how do you. I think Tony asked that question. How do you, who steps up as a leader when they're all young guys? We kind of talked about that. So yeah, you're really, you're really missing that leadership role when everyone is so young. I think the old guys on the defense now are Kenny Clark. Kenny's the older, drafted in 2017. You have Jair drafted in 2018. Is that it? Is that the older guys? I just, I don't know. I don't know. It's tough when that leadership role is kind of empty. You saw Quay kind of trying to, I don't know, bring together the defense at one point in time. So maybe Quay's trying to establish himself. Maybe he feels like that's the role for him as the Mike in that linebacker role. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so let's jump into, I know we still got a lot to cover with the rest of the episode. Let's jump into our giveaway here. So let me pull up that. Nice. 25 entries. That's awesome. Like I said, we are going to be doing 2. So shout out to Nicolay Law. I appreciate them immensely all season long. They're going to be helping us out with some giveaways. It certainly wouldn't be possible without Nicolay Law. I appreciate them so much. And like we talked about all season long, if the Packers lose, we're going to be doing an additional giveaway because even when bad things happen, like the Packers losing, Nicolay Law has your back. So if you do get injured, get Nicolay. But we don't need to worry about the bonus giveaway from the injury or from the loss today because we just don't need to worry about that. But we are doing a bonus giveaway for the scenario. So let me grab all of this. I want to make sure. Jordan, you're always it's so funny on your name. What a character. All right. So grab all these names, make sure I have all of them. Throw them in the wheel. 26 entries. One more snuck in. All right, let me share this screen. You'd think at this point I'd remember how to use this, but I just generally don't. All right. So if you do end up winning, if you get your name called, please let me know a number between 1 and 40 and whether you want it up or down, 1 through 40, up or down. So we're going to do 2 winners, and here is the first one. Ooh, is Corey winning again? Nice job, Corey. Up or down, 1 through 40. I mean, Corey's in here week in and week out, so makes sense that he's winning. Who else we got? And Katie. Katie's in here week in and week out as well. It's the first time winning this year, so congratulations, Katie. Appreciate both of you watching. Thank you guys all for entering in. And while we're waiting on Katie and Corey on their on their what they want to do, let's draw our scenario now for the week here. Stumbling over myself. So this week against the 49ers, this is what we need to have happen in order to get a bonus giveaway like we hit If it's something Preston Smith related, we will redraw it. Christian Watson 100 plus. All right. We'll see if he has another big game, but yeah, that's exciting. So I see Corey. He's got 28 and up. I think Katie's still here. Hopefully she's still here. 1 through 40. Up or down, Katie? If not, oh, there she is. 10 and up. All right, here's Corey. 28. You can't see it, but I'm sure Corey trusts me. Corey, you won. Oh, Mike Daniels signed 8x10. That's a nice one. Nice job there. And then 10 and up. I think 10's been selected like one of the most numbers so far this year, understandably so. Katie has 16 because that is the next one up. Good luck to you, Katie. Katie, you win. And Antonio Freeman signed 8x10. I don't know if you can see that or not. Nice job. I'll shoot you. Corey, I already have your address, but I think Katie, I might have your address as well if it's still the same. But I'll shoot you a message so I can get your address just to make sure. But thank you both for watching. I think both of you, Katie's been here every single episode, and I think Corey's been here all but the first episode. So thank you both, really. And thanks, everyone who submitted 26 entries. That's great. I appreciate you all immensely. Tony, before we kind of jump in to the 49ers matchup, Tony says Matt LaFleur is 11-0 versus the Bears. So do you think the ownership of the Bears belongs to MLF or Love? Man, that's a good question. I think I think it's co-ownership, right? Like there's equity shares. It's a great question. Equity shares. That's my answer. All right, let's talk about this Packers 49ers game. Sunday, 3:25. This is the stretch of late games for the Packers, which as a guy in his mid-30s with a 1-year-old son who is not sleeping very well at all. If you were watching last week, you remember he was up a ton. Last night he was up at like 11:30, midnight, 12:30. So he's been killing me here. So as someone who isn't getting a lot of sleep already, these stretch of late games are going to kill me. But the Packers play 3:25 this week, and then I think it's like 4 games in a row where it's a 7:25 game, and it is going to be some very long nights. Hopefully I can get some sleep. But the 49ers are 5-5. The Packers are 7-3, as we mentioned. And we talked about how they're 5-5, and their division is interesting. It's certainly not the NFC North. Their division's pretty much all 5-5, except I believe the Cardinals lead it with 6-4. So even if they lose this game, they're definitely not out of postseason contention. But we'd love to see them be. But let's break down their game. I was thinking about it the last usually for these breakdowns, I kind of talk about a bunch of numbers. And while I'm sure that's all fine and dandy, I feel like at that point I'm just rambling numbers. So we're going to try something different. I don't know how this looks. You guys will have to let me know if this actually, I just want to kind of help visualize the breakdown here. The numbers are what obviously each category. So you have the average total yards. The 49ers outrank the Packers in total yards, passing yards, and then rushing yards. The Packers are doing better offensively. Points, their average points are tied identically at 25.0, which is interesting. Defensively, it's all 49ers on this one, minus the average points allowed. The 49ers are only allowing 302 yards a game, 197 through the air, 105 on the ground, where the Packers are just slightly worse in those categories. But the Packers, on average, allow less points. Now, I think I did see that Bosa is going to be missing this game. I could be wrong. I don't know if that was a reliable source, but if that is true, that could be a huge disadvantage for them. And, when it comes to taking care of the football, the 49ers generally tend to give it away less. Now, they have taken away more interceptions than the Packers, but everything else the Packers have done more than the 49ers this year. But when it comes to giveaways, the 49ers take care of the ball a little bit better through the air. Packers a little bit better on the ground. And all in all, the 49ers take care of it a little bit better. See here. I see a couple questions, which is fine. I mean, I feel like this chart makes it a little bit easier for me to talk through. I don't need to ramble on as much, but every time the Packers play the Niners, always say that Rice fumbled and ruined our third straight trip. Yeah, I mean, I love the optimism of third straight to the Super Bowl, but very well could have. But I feel like that 98 Vikings team really had the Packers number. So I don't know that the Packers could have gotten beyond them in the playoffs, and eventually would have had to come to that. But their road certainly shouldn't have ended there. So that's a tough memory to always bring up. Jordan says, seeing where the team is and knowing where what the Packers have ahead for the rest of the schedule, what is your prediction for wins? Dude, I don't make predictions. I need to get I need to figure out a way that I can make a polling for you guys kind of to do like predictions for wins. And to be honest, I don't know that I could ever predict against the Packers. So I feel like my predictions would be kind of like James Jones when he's on NFL Network and he's going down the Packers and he's like, win, win, win. I feel like that's kind of what I would do. I do think there's obviously, it's a tough stretch. We talked about that. We have the Seahawks coming up. We have the 49ers. I think the Saints as well. We have 3 more divisional games in the Bears, Lions, and Vikings again. So it is a really tough stretch, but it's Toyotathon, man. It's Toyotathon. We're gonna ball out. We're winning out. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, Tony, you're definitely right. Nobody gave the Falcons a chance either. You're not wrong there. That's for sure. But yeah, so I saw was it Corey said that he liked the visual breakdown. Hopefully this helps. If so, I'll keep doing these so we can kind of see the visual breakdown. But overall, in the turnover differential, the Packers are leading that or have a better turnover differential overall of +5. Clearly not the only one drinking. Jordan, I don't even drink, man. You should know that. You got the wrong brother. This is if anyone's wondering, this is water. This is liquid death. It's water. I don't drink alcohol because I'm boring. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game Sunday. I like that it's at home. The Packers really need to figure out how to contain CMC without letting the rest of their defense just get torched. That's a tall task. I know Brock Purdy. I know Brock Purdy is kind of looking a little shaky as of late. I don't watch a ton of games with the 49ers, but I know that he's just kind of looked a little off in the last few weeks anyway. So hopefully, oh yeah, thank you for that. Of course, the Dolphins on Thanksgiving. Thanks for that, Corey. I hope that the Packers can kind of take care of business. I hope they can limit their offense, and I hope the Packers can get going, especially if their defensive line is without Bosa. That's going to be a huge hole. And I think that's going to make Josh Jacobs be a lot more successful. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a tight, close game. I've seen people say that we're going to get blown out by like 20 points. I don't think generally blowouts like that just don't happen in the NFL unless a lot of things go wrong in a game. Usually it's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to a possession or two. Hopefully the Packers can make the most of that possession, really utilize Josh Jacobs and get him going, open up the play action, and hopefully, Jordan can play. I'd love to see him play a very clean game of football, and I'd love to see him really have a good day. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this game, so I'd love to see him be able to do that. I know, Ben, this that surprises a lot of people. No way you live in the drunkest city in America and you don't drink. I do not drink. I think the last time I had alcohol was when my wife and I went to Italy on our honeymoon, and prior to that, it was maybe 2 or 3 years. It's not, I'll share this story before I move on to talk about our story of the week. What's interesting as someone who doesn't drink alcohol, especially living in Green Bay, is there's a lot of like work functions or a lot of things you'll go to where it's usually central, centralized around drinking. It's at a bar, or it's very like drinking heavy. And I don't drink, and I don't have an issue being like, hey, no, I don't drink, or I'm good. I'll just have a liquid death or a Coke or something. But people treat me like I'm an alcoholic that's in recovery. And it's really interesting. I've had people be like, oh, does it bother you here to be here then with all of us drinking? And I'm like, no, not at all. Or they'll say, oh, does it bother you if your wife has wine in the house? Nope. I just don't drink. I don't have a drinking problem. And I know a lot of people do, and it's a very serious topic, but it is interesting the fact that I don't drink and people just treat it almost like something's wrong with me to not drink. But I don't know. It just doesn't do much for me. I got it all out of my system when I was in high school, I think. So I think that's why it just doesn't do it. It's not as fun now that it's legal for me. Maybe that's it. But let's kind of get to our story of the week and kind of end the week with a fun story. Because I post the story of the week's clips on Monday, I figured I'd do a Thanksgiving one, since it is going to post right before Thanksgiving, and with Thanksgiving right around the corner, I felt like it was a very appropriate one. So obviously the Packers are no strangers to playing on Thanksgiving. They've taken the field on Thanksgiving 37 times over their 100+ history. During those 37 games, they've compiled a record of 15, 20, and 2. This year, their 38th Thanksgiving game will mark the first time they've ever faced an AFC team on the holiday, as their Thanksgiving matchups generally are against the Lions. They've played the Cowboys a few times, but generally it's against the Lions. And then obviously they played the Bears in 2015, where that heartbreaking loss on Bart Starr's Memorial Night, or Brett Favre's Memorial Night with his jersey retirement. Bart Starr was there as well. So this will be the 38th time. But if you're like me, you might have found yourself wondering, how far back does the Packers Thanksgiving game tradition go? When was the first time they played on Thanksgiving? Well, I looked it up, so you don't have to. The Packers first played on Thanksgiving all the way back in 1923. They defeated the Hammond Pros 19-0 at beautiful Bellevue Field, which was the Packers' home field prior to City Stadium, which City Stadium, I think, opened in 1925. Hammond Pros losing 19-0. More like Hammond Amateurs, am I right? I need to get like a badumch. But in that 19-0 victory, Charlie Mathis rushed for a touchdown, and he caught one from Curly Lambeau. Curly didn't stop there. He also hauled in a touchdown from Stan Mills. What an era. As you see players playing quarterback and receiver, just kind of doing it all on the field. So while you're watching the Packers, this Packers and Dolphins this Thanksgiving, and fighting off your food coma, feel free to share that nugget of Packers history with that one uncle of yours that won't stop talking about politics. I thought that was interesting, going all the way back to 1923. I also thought it was interesting that they've only played 37 times on Thanksgiving. I thought the Packers, honestly, it feels like they played more but less. I don't know. 37 is a lot, but it seemed like for a stretch there they're playing like almost every Thanksgiving. So yeah, that's the dad joke. Pretty bad. I did talk about that earlier. I mentioned Wes Hod sharing that. So they did it one other time, like 85 years ago. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I appreciate y'all hanging out, interacting, chatting. It's been fun chatting as always, and good to see you guys week in and week out, guys and gals, week in and week out. So appreciate y'all as always. I hope you have a good rest of your week. Go Pack Go. See you same time, same place next week, Tuesday, 7:30 Central Time. And hopefully we're talking about another Packers victory. Hopefully Christian Watson surpasses 100 yards so we can get I'll do 100 all-purpose yards too. I don't know if it's at 100 receiving yards, but we can do all-purpose. That's fine. But yeah, hopefully we're doing away another 2 giveaways because Christian hits it. So thank you guys. Appreciate you all. Hope to see you guys here same time, same place next week. Have a good week.